Welcome to Your Brain On by Salience Learning. I'm Karen Foster.
And I'm Krista Gerhard. This is part 3 of our 3-part series with Dr. Barbara Oakley. Enjoy.
Here is the great, completely useless insight from cognitive psychology, and that is you're supposed to retrieve the information just before you're about to forget it. Well, good luck with figuring that out. I mean, for me, about the best I can do is sort of say, I retrieve it for a couple of days. It seems stuck in, then maybe, wait a few days and then, try it. It also relates to how long you want to remember it. So like if you want to have it in mind for a year, you're supposed to, it's like a different pattern of spacing, but like a year would be like you'd want to make sure you've repeated it at least 3 months out, Um, so the longer you're expected to remember the information, the more you want to have spaced out repetitions. But I kind of wonder about that, insofar as my Russian, because I'm rusty with speaking, but I can still understand pretty well. What bugs me is like I'll be at some talk and they're introducing me. It's all in Russian, and it's rusty. So I feel a little bit, uncomfortable in speaking the language. But they'll be talking. They're like, and she's totally fluent in Russian, and I go, oh, I can't help but burst out. No, I'm not. And then everybody starts laughing because obviously, if I could understand what they were saying, I must. So, for example, I lived in Boston when I was or near Boston when I was 7, and I apparently had like a really thick, from the Boston area accent. But I only lived there one time, like when I was probably about 7 to 8, or something like that. But I lived in Texas twice, so that was when I was like um, uh, 6 to 7, something like that. And then again when I was 10 to 12 or something around there. But man, that Texas accent really stuck with me. So, I can just really, really just, and I get down to San Antonio and it just start, and I'm like, stop that, because people can be listening to me and thinking, that I'm like mimicking them or something. But I just start, yeah, but it's that spaced repetition, I think, that is why the Texas accent as opposed to the Massachusetts accent, stuck well with me.
So I have a question, because and I'm so enthralled by the particulars on memory and hippocampal to neural cortex. How do you see that sort of neuroscience procedure or action in our brains complement when we talk about executive thinking or higher level cognitive processing, right, around, for example, strategic thinking or problem solving, right? How do you see some of those foundational neural cortical and hippocampal processes complement kind of the more executive functions that the thinking they have to do?
Ah, you just gave me my in so that I can speak about procedural learning. Yay! Okay. um, so our declarative system of learning is through the hippocampus, and it's sort of like you're learning what you learn when I'm speaking right now, or people are explaining something. That's how you learn it. Your procedural system, you're completely unconscious of. So you do not know when you practice batting a ball, you don't know how you're learning to hit that ball. You think you do, but you're kind of not. It's kind of like, okay, arms, hit the ball, and you do it, and then you look and see if it successfully went where you wanted it to go, and okay, you just got a little reward. Oh, I hit it right. Or you got a little negative. No, I didn't. So it's like this learning arises from input. You're kind of telling it what to do, or it gets this information, and then, was it right? So that procedural system is, that's the system that has been completely dismissed by much of education. Yet it is just as important as the hippocampal declarative system. So asking people to learn without also using procedural learning is like asking a runner to run faster by only hopping on one leg. So so this procedural system is really important for managers because what it does is the input you give this system, it's not just learning how to hit a ball. It's learning things like, oh, this is how I can manage this person more effectively. Oh, and you get like hundreds and hundreds of different people you're managing, and it is a powerful pattern detector. So you may meet a new employee and you kind of go, there's something off about that person. And, it may be that they're like overly, um, friendly or overly positive about you. Oh, I love you. I love your work. I love you. You're so wonderful. And, if you work around that person for a little bit, or people like that, you begin to realize that that's actually a symptom of subclinical borderline personality disorder. They will place you on a pedestal, and but you're not really you may not know any psychology whatsoever. You just know that there's something a little off about that person. And so, it's that powerful procedural system, and it gives you an outcome, that affects your conscious thinking, but you're not aware that you're being affected that way. You just know that there's something, and this also is, of course, how biases arise. So, stereotypes and so forth. It may have that person that you are meeting, um, may be a perfectly fantastic employee, but your underlying biases, you think you're thinking logically, oh no, I don't want this person. But actually, there may be some underlying biases from your procedural system. So I think learning more about how to develop intuition by guiding the inputs that you give your procedural system, because it just learns from lots and lots of data.
So, Barbara, this has just been so interesting and amazing. Just as we think about wrapping up our discussion today, are there any final words of advice that you would leave our listeners with, especially in the life science corporate setting, who are trying to take your nuggets of knowledge and think about applying them into their day-to-day jobs and ways of creating great learning for the people that they support in their organizations?
Well, I can't help but just say that I think it's incredibly important to keep your eye on what's coming out. For example, from what you're putting out about new ways of learning, new ways of engaging. Um, there's some fantastic new material. It really isn't just the same old, same old. And of course, in my own work, if people would like to look that up, I have just lots of new and interesting insights. And it's the gestalt of these kinds of ideas, and also the gestalt of a person's own framework, how, reframing it from, I kind of already know how to do that, and I don't need to know any more new information about learning because I've learned all my life, into, wow, you've got a lot to learn. And I just so appreciate being on your show because you are doing that front line work, I think, that is needed to help make people aware of these fantastic new breakthroughs.
Well, it's quite a compliment coming from you and your background and experience, and it's going to be a journey by all means, continued, and looking forward to, again, keeping up with the literature, what's new, what's exciting, and really converting to that spaced interleaved solution that not only do we know is rooted in neuroscience, but it complements our learners' busy, hectic schedules. It's been really exciting to listen and learn from you today.
Oh, well, thank you. It's been wonderful speaking with you, and I just wish you and our audience the happiest of learning.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Your Brain On. Please subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm Krista Gerhard.
And I'm Karen Foster.
And we'll see you next time.